to the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you to be here this evening to discuss very important issues. May you give the council the guidance and the wisdom to make those decisions. May you bless our community. May you bless each and every one of us. In Jesus' precious name, amen. Item 3, approval of minutes of the January 21st, 2020 meeting.
Mr. Mayor, if there's no additions or corrections, I'd go ahead and make a motion that we approve the minutes of the January 21st council meeting as printed.
I'd second that.
Been a motion and second. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Do we have Gary and Ron? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
You have Gary.
All right, Gary. Are there any communications? There's none. Item 5, public comments. This is the time that Jack can go first and speak his mind for what pertains on the agenda.
Jack Bray, a resident and overburdened taxpayer. Item 10.1, consider a 5-year contract with Markley Municipal Services for landlord licensing. Why do I get the feeling my wallet is going to get lighter here? I am a landlord. I don't see any reason why the city hasn't been doing a good job on this. Are we going to eliminate a position? What are we going to do here? Is it going to cost more? Are these people licensed and bonded? Are they checked out? I mean, can we trust them walking into our homes? Have they been checked out, is what I'm trying to say. And how much is it going to cost us more in the long run? Taxpayers and landlords. Anybody know?
Well, it's on the agenda.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Yep. Anyone else would like to speak? All right, then I will close the public comments. Item 6, report of standing committees, boards, commissions, and Delavan Area School District. Item 6.1, the Finance Committee and Treasurer's Report. Mr. DeWitt.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to move to receive the Treasurer's Report.
Second that.
Been a motion second. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 6.2, general operations. Mr. Johnson had to go home. He's pretty sick, so I don't know if Bruce or...
I was unprepared. I didn't know he was going home sick. We had a meeting just before this meeting, and all those things are on the agenda for tonight. So.
Okay. Item 6.3, Planning Commission. We met a few weeks ago, the first Monday of this, well, 3 weeks, boy. Yeah, it just seems weird that our council meeting is almost at the end of the month. But all we discussed that evening is what pertains on the agenda in regards to the Lake Lawn development, which will be, which is on the agenda for tonight. Our Planning Commission meetings meet the first Monday of each month at 5:30 here. All right, 6.4, Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Public Works met twice. I was unable to attend January 27th, so in a second I'll let Ron talk to that. February 11th, we met in regard to getting together with the contractor and the architect in regard to some change orders that we had questions about. After quite a bit of discussion, we did come to a resolution on that, and they did reduce our billing on a few of the things, so that was good news. We also had a discussion on the water service installations on Wisconsin Street, and we did come to a resolution on that as well. And so And before I give it over to Ron, just a note, our next meeting is on Tuesday, March 24th, as far as what my calendar says. If it's any different, Mark, you'll have to chime in. But Tuesday, March 24th at 5:30 in the chambers. So Ron, if you want to talk about January 27th, that would be great. Is Ron present?
We may have lost him.
Uh-oh.
He might have gone out to get a drink or something.
Well, then, Carrie, is Carrie available?
I'm here, but I didn't come with anything ready to talk about Public Works, just as the joint committee meeting that you just got done discussing. I don't have any notes from the January 27th meeting.
Okay. Well, the minutes are.
Hello.
So there was,
There he is.
yeah, there's Ron.
Hey,
Ron, is
Yeah,
there
just,
anything?
Gary, I may have to have you call me back on another number because I'm out of time here.
we hear you right now. You want to do it quick? What's
Gary,
your
are you listening?
what's your number?
John listens. What's
Three-
my number?
374-9672,
All right, we'll
262 area code.
all right, we'll call you right back here.
Yeah, just don't call them.
Thank you.
Technology. You want to wait for him, or you just want me to mention that the minutes are available in the office? I don't believe there was anything that was discussed that's on tonight's agenda, but it was a combined meeting later with the Tower Park project, and a lot of discussion in regard to that. Oh.
Okay. Ron, you there? Okay, while we're waiting for Ron.
Hello. I got him here. Just a second.
Okay.
All right.
So,
Hello?
Ron?
Yeah.
Yeah, is there anything else you want to mention about the January 27th Public Works meeting that took place? That was the meeting that ended up with the Tower Park conversation.
No, I really don't have anything
Okay,
to
all
offer anybody else.
right. So that'll end our report, Mr. Mayor.
the meetings are on file and can be checked at City Hall.
I can tell you that the next meeting is March 24th at 5:30 in here.
All right. Move on to item 6.5, Town Delavan Lake Committee. We met the first Wednesday in February. Just a couple items of note. We had the Delavan Lake Economic Impact from the UW Whitewater students, Sid and Dan, gave a presentation on the economic impact of clean water for Delavan Lake, and a nice presentation, but the final one they'll put together in a packet form for us to look at, but it's just an overview of what they did. And then we had another presentation from Baxter and Woodman, a proposal for the Browns Channel Stream Bank Restoration Project. And so they're going to send that proposal to the Delavan Lake Board to decide. Let's see, what else? We talked about the ponds on Mon Road. Still dealing with maybe purchasing equipment to clean out the ponds, but no definitive decision yet. And then they are forming a Delavan Lake Rock River Basin Farmers Group with the farmers that are in part of the wetland area that affects the lake. So it's kind of a growing movement to bring awareness and to have the farmers get on board with using fertilizer stuff that won't bring in the phosphorus, levels that it is doing. Anyways, our next meeting is on March 4th, and I'll be attending that one because Ron is still on vacation. So,
Pardon?
yep, sorry. So anyways, item 6.6, Library Board of Trustees.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Feasibility study has been completed for the possibility of the new addition to Aaron Public Library. The final payment for those services was made to McDonald Schaefer. Letters are being prepared to send right now out to community members who participated in that study. The next meeting is going to be held on March 19th at 5:30 at the library.
Thank you. Item 6.7, Park Recreation Commission. Ms. Descharet.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Winter basketball season's wrapping up. The daddy-daughter dance was a big success. I don't know if anybody was out there, but they had 435 people in attendance. 139 of those were from Delavan. So that was a real big event for them. They are in the process of moving into the new maintenance facility, and the finalized design project has been submitted for Tower Park. The bidding's going out for that on March 4th. And the project's anticipated to start just after the 4th of July, like maybe on July 5th even. A new sign was approved for the Signature Garden at Congdon Park, and that will be an illuminated sign that's right on Highway 50 there. It's really looks nice. And the next meeting is going to be held March 30th at 5:30 in the conference room here.
Thank you. Item 6.8, Communications Commission, Mr. Trainer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Communications Commission met here at City Hall on January 27th. We had a short meeting. We did welcome one of our new board committee members, the new marketing communications director with the school district, Brian Vitzers. And so it was a nice addition and allowed us to have a quorum because it's sometimes been very difficult to have a quorum and actually meet. And on that note, we are still looking for a couple of board members willing to potentially serve. Again, as I've mentioned in the past, this is a good way for people that want to get involved and get back to their community and serve on a board or a commission in this sense, and do it without every month. This is a committee and a commission that meets quarterly, so it's an opportunity to serve and still kind of do it at your leisure and not have a big commitment as some of our other monthly boards and commissions. So keep that in mind. Let the mayor know, let the city administrator know, let myself know as the council rep to this committee or any other council member for that matter. We did talk about obviously communication issues. We also talked about reviewing the ordinances and the municipal codes that make up and govern this commission, just for review for our board members. We also, more importantly, talked about future agenda items, which will entail improvements to the audio and video recording. I think there was a little bit of a glitch. We've heard some issues as far as whether it's clear enough, whether other people are talking directly into the mic like I'm trying to do tonight, and some of that audio feedback has been harder to hear on YouTube. So we definitely want to make sure that it comes through loud and clear for those that are taking the time to get a handle on the important decisions that we're making here at City Hall. So that's something that we're going to talk about at a future meeting, and that next meeting will take place on April 27th at 5:30 p.m. here at City Hall. So would welcome your attendance. Thanks.
Thank you. Item 6.9, Delavan Downtown Project Management Team, Mr. Trainer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Delavan Downtown Project Management Team also met here at City Hall on January 27th. It was a busy evening for committee meetings, and as was mentioned, there was a joint Downtown Project Management Team and Public Works for a portion as it related to the Tower Park improvements. And so that took up much of the discussion. We also then went into our standard updates for as far as marketing, what community, what businesses are out there, what spaces are either for rent or for purchase, and to continue to market the historic downtown area in particular. We also talked about Sky Circus, so thank you to Lake Lawn Resort for continuing that great event and doing all that you could to not only bring people from to have a good time at the resort, but to bus them on the trolley into the downtown so that people could discover the historic downtown and the businesses here. I know the businesses appreciated that, and it was great to see the ice sculptures and the snow sculptures and activities going on in historic downtown. So we very much appreciate that. Also wanted to mention that the next downtown event that will be taking place is the annual train show. That will be taking place on March 21st and March 22nd. So mark your calendars. It's a free family event. If you haven't been to those, especially if you've got kids, grandkids, it's a great opportunity to come out and discover all the work that goes into these layouts. And more importantly, if you want to invite a friend, other people from out of town, again, this is an event that historically has brought anywhere between 5,000 to 6,000 people over the two events. Again, a great way to discover not only historic downtown, but our community as a whole. Also talked about at our meeting is the Connect Communities. I've talked a lot about that, so I won't go into a lot of detail as to the program. I've, again, mentioned that many times. If anyone has any questions, I'm always willing to address those. What I will say is that we're in the process of now reviewing, and as I understand it, we had about 11 people that were interested, so we're in the process of reviewing those applications and then moving forward with hiring someone that will spearhead many of our downtown activities in the historic downtown area. Our next meeting will take place here at City Hall on March 3rd, so welcome anyone that's interested in getting more involved. I've mentioned that many times in the past, that we're always looking for volunteers to serve on some of these events to make them even better, and it helps to have not always the same core group of people, but some new ideas and some new energy as well. So, thank you.
Thank you. Item 610, Delbert Golf Commission. We met on February 20th. And just some updates. We hadn't met since November. Typically December and January. There's no activity of golf, pretty much. But so we met last week. Delbert website has been updated. In December, when there was some warm weather, McScott Golf Company installed the posts for the driving range. If you drive past, you'll see those big tall telephone poles, that's what I call it, for the driving range. And when the weather gets better and they're able to install the netting before the season starts. The new entry signs will be installed by the start of the season. Additional work on hole number 9 south along the road. They still have more drainage tile to put in. Because of the weather last year, they couldn't get it all done. As I said before, 80% of the cart paths are done, so they still got 20% or so to finish up as weather permits. We did have a lot of discussion on the clubhouse renovations. We're going to at least start with fixing the women's bathroom in the clubhouse. That's deplorable. And then the men's, and kind of work away to the one downstairs. Greenie's big picture window is going to be replaced because the air goes through. And we also did the Golf Pro Dan Piaja's evaluation after the meeting, and so that's pretty much wraps it up. Our next meeting will be typically the third Thursday of each month. All right, item 611, Tourism Commission. Ron, did you have a meeting?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so I take it there's nothing to report at this time.
I don't think so. You could ask Denise.
Our next meeting is at the end of March, and we did have a meeting in February. Um, but I'm not quite remember what we've discussed, but maybe Dave or Ryan will remember.
You know, I think it's the water we're drinking. Affected us all. Item 612, Delavan Darien School District. We got an email today, I think it was, Jill will not be here to report, so we'll wait till next month. All right, let's move on to item 7, Planning Commission, 7-1. Review and possible recommendation to the Common Council regarding a request to consider planned infill development amendment to the official zoning map for a revised Step 3 General Development Plan at 2400 East Geneva Street, located in the Manufacturing Light Zoning District, to allow for a residential development in the area around the Lake Lawn Resort Marina. Applicant is Brian Pollard. Why don't you start us off?
Right. Hi, my name is Rick Zirk, Z-I-R-K. I'm here with Brian Pollard from Fairwind this evening. I work for Fairwind as well. Also with us is Dave Sakaris and Keith Pollock from Lake Lawn to answer questions that relate more to their operation, their expansion. We're here this evening seeking GDP approval or a modification of a GDP for 2 specific areas of their facility, a expansion of the resort use for a convention center, and then a modification of the residential component to the far east side. I'll see if this really works like they promised me it would. Pretty briefly, I think everybody knows where Lake Lawn is, but the area we're talking about is essentially south and west of 50, east of North Shore Drive, and the entire frontage along the lake. From your zoning map, this is shown to be as a PIP existing zoning. We've outlined the portion of the property we're talking about on the map. And the first slide we have here is the resort area. Of note, the things that are proposed to change as far as the resort is the addition in this area of a, I think it's a 41,000 square foot conference center is what they're proposing to ultimately build on that site. To support the conference center, there's a larger parking area proposed along the main entrance, and then this area here is a 15,000 square foot maintenance facility with some storage area that is going to address the concern staff had with the east side of the property when the residential portion develops. What happens to all these things that are there now? Past GDPs may not have addressed that. So in this GDP, the staff has asked us to make sure we have identified what they're going to do, and what they're going to do is build a new facility and locate on this side of the property. The next slide shows the east side of the property, the residential component, which was what we call a resort conservancy development. This portion on this side is single-family homes. There's essentially 5 distinct and potentially 6 distinctive lots we're dealing with on this project. Lot 1 being the resort itself, and this portion of the frontage, which remains under resort control in this configuration, as well as a relocated boat launch and expanded parking. Lot 4 is this area, and that includes 61 single-family residential units in a sort of a conservancy development. You see a lot of open space has been preserved. Lots have been laid out to best get views of the conservancy areas or lake areas to try to give everybody a view of the open spaces or the golf courses. Lot 3 is a marina use, which will be a reconfiguration of a previously approved marina use, and this marina will be a dual-use shared facility that residents of the resort will have access to, and our residents in our neighborhood will have access to. So it'll be sort of a on-site clubhouse marina for our folks with a pool and gathering areas, just like you would see it in many neighborhoods. The east portion of this is a 40-unit, 20-lot, 2-unit attached villa product, which is designed for folks who may not want to have a single-family home, but still want to be part of the community. More popular with empty nesters or retiree type things. These are, I presume, will be mostly families, second homes for families, but mostly this would be where the family type buyer would be. The also have as I mentioned before on lot 1, a relocated and reconfigured boat launch. We do show the boat launch into the lake. We have met with DNR. We're working on a permit with DNR to address a couple of the items, including, you'll see there's additional piers. We've put those on there so everybody's aware of it, so nobody's surprised by what we're doing. We're proposing additional boat dock spaces. We showed them on there for reference. Their exact configuration and location, as well as the configuration of the boat launch, is going to be dictated by DNR. We started the process with DNR, and we'll have to work our way through that. Lot 1, again, is all of this area, including the resort. There is a lot 6 that is shown right in this location. That is where the lift station on the site is now for the Delavan Lake Sanitary District lift station. I put that on a lot for them so they could own the land underneath the station they have right now. The lot they actually own is right here. The lift station's close to it, but not exactly on the lot they own. So during this process, we'll be conveying property to them for their lift station. We did get, the reason I said it's maybe a lot, may not, they've inferred to us that they may not want an actual lot. They just may want that to remain part of lot 4 or lot 1, and they would want an easement over the property. They just simply prefer to have an easement than an actual physical lot. So from our perspective, it's no consequence. It really comes down to what the Delavan Lake Sanitary District would prefer to have. The next 2 slides I'll go through quickly, but these were exhibits in the outline in the memorandum. This is the location of the lot that's being created to house the conference center. The conference center is obviously not going to be this oddly shaped, but what we did is we took a minimum setback from all the buildings that exist and created a lot that was as big as it could possibly be, but being respectful to the setbacks, so that when they do design the facility, they have as much possible room, as flexibility as they can to get the facility to work exactly like they want it. Again, I think it was a 41,000 square foot conference center. The next land division lot we have, just graphically in colors, breaks down where these different lots are. This pink area up here is a lot that's being reserved and made available to the Department of Transportation for future expansion of right-of-way for Route 50. So that lot is a separate lot that can be conveyed. And again, individual lots are defined in color, white being the lot for lot 1. There is a small connection here, point 2, that is, it's on both properties, but it says emergency access between the 2 uses. So emergency vehicles could get into the facility if there's an accident or something here, or they could use this access to get to the lodge. And it also provides a continuation of our internal bike trail system. And when putting this together, a couple things, and I won't spend a lot of time on these unless you'd like me to. This exhibit, as blurry as it is in the book, and it has, it shows the environmental concerns we had to deal with in developing the plan and staying within the guidelines. We're allowed up to a 10% disturbance of the environmental corridor. This plan came in slightly under that at 9.6. So we do conform with the standards for impact of the environmental corridor. Woodland impact, we're allowed up to a 40% impact of woodland areas. The plan as presented is a 22% impact. Again, one other thing that, just to note, staff did bring up in case anybody's concerned, this one duplex unit here, villa unit, is slightly over the environmental corridor boundary. We believe through sewer pack that's going to be approved as part of the overall addressing the sewer pack concerns in our modification plan. But if it wasn't, there is some room to adjust those units around to pull that out if we had to during the PIP process. We think it's a better plan this way, so we'd like to at least, if they'll allow us to leave that encumbrance, you know, it's a better plan. If not, we'll just move these things over a little bit to make it work, but it works either way. But I only bring that up because that was one of the items staff brought up in their notes. This is the master utility plan, and we did it in color here for a little easier to see than all the black lines running together on the engineering plan. Blue being the water main, the property has a looped water system that's connected at 2 points into the municipal water system, and the site will be supplied by municipal water. Sanitary sewers in the green. All the sanitary sewers will be collected through a private on-site system owned by us and maintained by our HOA. That will dump directly into the lift station. This area here is supported by a small on-site lift station that again will be owned and maintained by the HOA, feeds through a force main back to the gravity system and out to the lift station. As part of this process, we are making a connection, readjusting our connection to the Delavan Lake Sanitary District to move from one main they have to another, which will do a few things for us. It'll expand and bring our plant back up to full capacity because us and a few other people are pumped into one line, creating back pressure that's causing everybody some heartburn. So as part of this project, this line will be relocated across the street, connect into a different line, provide us a better operating system, and quite honestly, make a better system for the other folks that are connected into that force main now. The orange lines represent the storm lines. There's obviously anybody that knows the site knows there's a lot of water coming from the north across the roads through drainage ways here. We've accommodated for those in the grading plan to continue to carry that bypass water through the property. And in the PIP process, the ditch sections will be drawn to show that it improved to the city that the ditch sections are large enough to convey that water without causing any undue hardships to folks upstream from us. We do have a number of detention facilities in the middle that are going to provide for recharge, clarification of the water, and allow the water to be settle out as many dissolved solids as possible before it actually makes its way into the lake. The next thing that was brought up to us by staff, there's a whole bunch of these little drawings in your packet. What was requested by the fire department is to prove through a vehicle turning rate analysis that a fire engine, the largest fire engine you have as a community, could make its way through here. We weren't going to create roads that were too tight to move the vehicle. So this little drawing shows the path around. There's a whole bunch of those drawings in the book. I didn't want to bore everybody looking at truck going around the circle a whole bunch of times. So we did prove to staff and prove to our engineer that there will not be an issue with getting fire apparatus through the site. The landscape plan, again, the focus on this has been conservancy. So you can see the ponds and the areas in here will be more of a natural prairie than it will be a manicured lot. We're working with the resort to make sure what we're doing is consistent with what they're doing. But a lot of the design of this, even though we have a main entrance that goes right through the middle, the view lines from the development are intended to bring somebody in, not have them look at front of a building. We're going to have great views of which will be a really nice marina building and the lake. So there was a lot of attention to keeping this corridor open so that the view shed of people entering really is the boating and the lake. The roads, as outlined in the memo, are private. They'll be owned and maintained by the association. We're doing all the berming in the back here to block 50. We have same thing here. The other thing I'll notice, this area to the east, there was a question of the impact to the woods east of the boat launch. There is no proposed impact east of the boat launch other than if one of the utility companies has to go through there to bring a line or something. But from our perspective, there was no impact to the east. At the entrance, at this location here, we'd have a divided medium or whatever we can work out with the Department of Transportation. But we'd like to have an entrance feature that's unique to the neighborhood. This is an example of something we would do. If anybody's seen the other development we've done in Lake Geneva, Symphony Bay, we have a large, monument sign there with sort of a lighthouse, a lit lighthouse on it. But we do something that's consistent with the theme of the community and the resort. Each of the homes, we put together landscape packages for each of the homes. So each home will have its own distinct landscape package. Couple of just examples of foundation plantings. And I will say in this environment, part of what we anticipate is these will be second home buyers. They're not going to be here every week. May not be here during the winter. So each homeowner, it's a fee simple ownership. You own your lot, but all the land around your home and all the common space will be maintained by the association. So you'll pay a monthly management fee or an HOA assessment fee, and then it'll always be maintained. It's important to us that to keep the resort look, everything's maintained the same, everything's always maintained. We don't have somebody that doesn't show up for 2 weeks or 3 weeks and the grass gets lawn. So it's part of that process to keep it looking like we want to have it looking. The association is going to maintain the spaces for all the landscaping. There was a whole list of GDP notes in the back of that memo. Michael Slavny and Mark had, beat the daylights out of me on all those questions. So we put together responses and put those in there. If anybody has any questions on specific ones, I'd be happy to go through them. But I think we've tried to put a response together for all the concerns that the staff had up to this point. We understand all those concerns and those points, those identified items will be ultimately part of any recommendation for approval, conditions of approval, and they will continue through and have to be addressed and maintained through the PIP process. So that's trying to, picture's worth 1,000 words, and I tried not to give you both this evening. So if there's any questions anybody has, as I said, we've got folks from Lake Lawn here. We can try to address anything you have. So trying to give you as clean an overview as I could, but I will say staff prepared a very good memo for the Plan Commission. I think it addressed really all the items that we would have liked to have brought up. And
Thank you, Rick. Is there any questions from the council? Ryan?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. As I was preparing for tonight's meeting, I did have some questions. So your presentation was very, very good in that it addressed some of those questions already. One of which was obviously, in order to get final approvals, to do everything that you want to do, we have a big decision process in that, obviously, but it also impacts what the state says on a couple of these different issues, one of which, as you pointed out, one of the things that I noticed in following this process is obviously DNR. And so to know that, and one of my questions was going to be, had you had some of those early discussions with DNR, and it sounds like you have. In addition to that, have you initiated some early discussions with DOT, obviously on the traffic and that sort of thing, or
we've had, as far as the traffic impact analysis, that was completed for the residential component. There will be a future traffic impact analysis created when the conference center is built in the parking lot. That impacts the main entrance. The focus through the Department of Transportation has been, and what the heck are you going to do at the intersection with by Pirates Cove? How's that going to look? And so our engineers have gone down that path. I think we're very close to final design. I think it's fair to say we're very close to final design. And quite honestly, those discussions are what led to the identification of the dedication parcel that you saw on the top, where they're looking for us to provide that land for future expansion. So whether it be a roundabout, a T intersection, or that. But as far as that, we're very far down the road. DNR, we've met with preliminarily. Didn't get blown out of the water, no pun intended, but we didn't get blown out of the water, and we're putting an application package together for them. But there's a bit of a chicken and the egg thing that happens at this point. We're trying to not overstep our bounds at DNR, not understanding exactly where we are with the community. We don't want to overstep our bounds with the community, not understanding we're DNRs. So we're trying to hedge those two things along on the parallel paths.
Certainly. And a lot of this, I mean, again, a lot of information, very detailed in the memos. So some of these questions are more for anyone here tonight that maybe has some similar questions or watching at home, which...
You're not trying to see if I answered the same way twice as we do?
I wouldn't put you on the spot like that.
Well, thank you.
One of the other things, obviously, is the storm management, a very important issue. You highlighted that in your presentation. One of the things I don't know that you specifically said and that I liked was the water quality goals, with the water quality itself being increased from the minimum 40% TSS removal rate, which I like to hear that. I think everybody would like to hear that, because obviously I know Lake Lawn has been a great steward of the lake. I mean, we're all affected if it's not clean and when it isn't, and when there's been issues, but none more impactful immediately than you guys. So, I mean, everything from the weed harvester in the past to other issues, and so the rain gardens and some of, as you said, the natural things slowing down that water flow and ultimately cleaning it up before it gets into the lake is obviously a very, very important thing. So it's something that I highlighted in reviewing this. You touched on it and wanted to specifically talk about the water quality goal and the increased minimum rate there. I also wondered, and again, this is preliminary. You're going to come back again for more detailed and more specific plans, but initially, and I'm not even talking about obviously the temporary type jobs that will be, you know, the trades and the construction and the plumbers and the electricians. I'm not even talking about that, but do you have an early rough idea of how many potential jobs in the conference center, how many in the marina? I did not see that, and if I missed it, I apologize. I looked specifically for those numbers. I didn't see that. And again, it's pretty early. I just didn't know if you had any
I'd have to defer
rough ideas.
to Dave or Kevin. I'm not, you know, I don't want to speak on their behalf, but they're here if they have an assumption on.
Hi, good evening. For the conference center, we're still continuing to revise those specifics for the exact plans, but we know what a conference center does is add the business when we need it. We need midweek, we need off-season business, not just for Lake Lawn, but for the entire community, for tourism. So knowing that it fills those voids of what we have currently certainly increases the number of jobs that we would have assigned to that. So, I mean, just the top of my head, it's probably additional 50 full-time jobs right now with what I see, without going into more detail.
Sure. And I won't hold you to a certain number. I think that's important. I think that's what certainly helps, you know, make the project that much more important. And when you're creating new jobs, when you're, and I would lastly say, as far as a comment, not a question, is that some of us have been dealing with different phases and different proposals as it relates to this piece of property over the years. Even in this current ownership, and even somewhat as it specifically relates to the marina, is not new. And I would point that out too, because we obviously did give some approvals at one point, and obviously it's going to change now with a couple other phases. I would say that one of the things that myself and a couple others were pretty stressed at that time was the need for the conference center and having some additional business for not only the resort but all of Delavan in the off season, as you pointed out. And so, you know, knowing that that's going to be a part of this is very, very important. That's what I had been interested in the past, and was happy to see that as part of this process. And again, knowing that this is the initial step, you'll be back with more specific details and more specific numbers on new jobs and all that good stuff. So thank you.
Anyone else? Does staff have any comments to make? Nope.
No, I just want to clarify is that this is for final approval of the GDP, and then each of the specific developments of the areas will be through the PIP process where we get into more of the detail.
All right, with that, then someone care to make a motion?
It's a really long motion.
I know, I was getting to Go ahead. You got there before me.
Well, it's on this paper. Do I have to read all of this, Denise?
That's up to the attorney.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so, I guess we would make a motion to approve, this is all short-term rentals occurring within any portion of the property covered by the GDP should be under single unified management. Is this the right part?
And so it'd be starting with the motion to, for the adoption of the
Okay,
ordinance.
the adoption of the ordinance, approving with the suggested findings listed above, and to approve the proposed project as planned infill development, general development plan, subject to the requirements of the submitted application, subject to the requirements of the general zoning ordinance as modified by the approved items of zoning flexibility, and subject to the following list of conditions identified by city staff and plan commission and the common council, and as approved by the common council. Covering all these? Okay, 1. All short-term rentals occurring within any portion of the property covered by the GDP shall be under single unified management through Delavan Lake Lawn LLC. The planned infill development, general development plan for the proposed project shall be granted solely as approved by the common council. Modifications to the site and or operations that are not specified and enabled by the approved GDP and PIP will require an amended PIP and potentially an amended GDP for the city's determination. The city shall retain the right to inspect the subject property, including with non-residential buildings, annually to ensure full compliance with the building code, the zoning ordinance, and the GDP and PIP and other government regulations. The approved GDP shall include all developments as depicted on the GDP site plan. Development specifies including traffic will be considered thoroughly as part of the PIP process. Prior to any site disturbance, a precise implementation plan consistent with the approval GDP must be secured for any development on lots 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. The approved GDP shall grant the requested flexibilities described in section C above. The approved GDP shall include the additional provisions listed in section D above, including extending its valid period for 10 years from the date of final common council approval of the GDP. Any other conditions identified by the plan commission and or common council.
I would second that motion.
Been a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Motion passes.
Thank you.
Rick. Thank you, everybody. All right, item 8, approval of bills warrant 20-01.
Mr. Mayor, the bills came before Finance Committee. I would move to approve warrant 20-01.
I would second that.
Been a motion second. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 8.2, consider the purchase of equipment, supplies, installation services from General Fire required in conjunction with the 2020 Police Squad switchovers at a cost not to exceed $45,833.69.
We should get a letter from the car manufacturers that they can never change the specs of the inside of the car, so we don't have to change them. This came before Finance, and of course, to move to approve the purchase of equipment, supplies, and installation services from General Fire required in conjunction with the 2020 Police Squad switchovers at a cost not to exceed $45,833.69.
I would second that.
There's been a motion second. Any other discussion? If not, may I have a roll call?
Alderman Schrader,
Yes.
Alderman Dessner Brandt,
Yes.
Alderman Henriette,
Yes.
Alderman DeWitt,
Yes.
Alderman Stebnitz,
Yes.
Motion passes. Item 9, consider issuance of 2020 commercial hauler's license to Lakeland Trash, Newenice Brothers, Viola Services, and Waste Management per the recommendation of the Director of Public Works as administrator of the city's solid waste management recycling program. Is there a motion?
This became before GOC, and I would make that motion. Okay.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Motion passes. Item 9.2, consider changes to section 2-4-1 of the municipal code regarding the Delavan Arboretum.
This is just making on paper what's been going on since the death of Gordon Yaden, which has been the gentleman that kept all the records upstairs in his photographic memory, but now we move that to, so it now belongs to Park and Rec. Move to approve the amendment to Municipal Code 2-4-11 regarding the Delavan Arboretums.
I would second that.
Been a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 9.3, consider changes to the municipal code section 2-4-18 Communications Commission.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve the proposed revisions to Title II, Chapter 4, Section 18 of the Municipal Code.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 9.4, consider change of liquor license agent for Speedway.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the appointment of Taylor Summerfield as a new agent for Speedway LLC at 803 East Geneva Street.
I'd second that.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Motion passes. Item 10, consider 5-year contract with Markley Municipal Services for
You missed
landlord.
9.5, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, I guess nobody wanted to get paid, huh?
Fine.
Whoops, my bad. I'm trying to speed along, the debate is on. Okay. Oh, okay.
Oh.
All right, I'll take my time now. Item 9.5, adjustment to salary ranges for 2020.
Mr. Mayor, this came before GOC just before this meeting, and we had some discussion on it, and looking at the comparables among the cities around us, and of course, the main report also, we actually made the recommendation to raise the midpoint to 2%, and I would make that recommendation, but we also mentioned at that meeting that sometime this summer that the staff go out and compare the midpoints of comparable jobs around other communities to make sure we're also still in line. So I would make that motion to recommend approval of 2% midpoint adjustment to salary ranges for represented regular employees.
I would second that.
There's been a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 10, Jack, you listening? Consider 5-year contract with Markley Municipal Services for landlord licensing and vacant building inspection and code enforcement services.
How long has Markley been doing it for us?
Has it been,
Is it 2 years, T? Been doing it 2 years?
3?
so, 3 years?
3?
Or 4? Yeah. So we currently have a contract with Markley Management Services. We've had that for 3 or 4 years. This is a new contract with the same company to provide the services for a 5-year period. The actual rate that we're paying as proposed for this year has not changed. The future years does provide for a slight increase in those rates. The contract, although it is a 5-year contract, there is a provision that it can be terminated with 60-day notice by either party. So although there's protections for us in terms of the rates and understand where we're going with this, but if something would change, there is an opportunity on either party's their ability to terminate.
With that, I would move to approve the 5-year contract with Markley Municipal Services for landlord lease licensing, vacant building inspection, and code enforcement services, providing for an average of 18 hours of work per week at a 2020 hourly rate of $45, a 2021 of $46 an hour, 2022 of $47, 23 and 24 at a rate of $48 an hour.
Is there
I
a
would
second?
second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 11, public comments. Jack?
Jack Fahey again, and 2020 has started a very good year for my wife and I, because around January 8th, we received a letter from the Department of Corrections, and this was an incident that happened 26 years ago in the city of Delavan. It was the murder of my wife's sister over here in Delavan, created quite a stir. Like I said, we received a letter from the Department of Corrections in Waupun that her murderer has died there. So Delavan will not be burdened with him coming back around here. And I just want to do a lot of kudos to the people that broke the case, of which was Chief Malsh at the time, and Detective Strom, and of course all the good Delavan's finest that was in on it. Wisconsin Crime Lab did a great bang-up job. And I just wanted to say we're at the point of closure now on this. But I just want to point out what I told Judge Gibbs in his courtroom when I pointed at that idiot. I pointed at him in court and I said these words. This piece of, and I had to search for this word because I didn't want to call him an animal because an animal is far better than he was. I pointed at him and I said, this piece of excrement should be flushed away, never to resurface any place again in our society. Thank God my prayer was answered. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jack, and we are sorry, so sorry for your wife's sister.
Thank you.
And I'm glad it's where it's at. All right, anybody else? Nope. All right, I'll close the public comments. Item 12, suggested future agenda items. Take it there's none. Item 13, recess to closed session pursuant Wisconsin statutes 19.85, parent 1, parent C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, the city administrator's evaluation. Is there
So move.
a second?
Second.
Been a motion, a second. May we have a roll call?
Alderman Dessner Brandt?
Yes.
Alderman Henriette?
Yes.
Alderman DeWitt?
Yes.
Alderman Stedman?
Yes.
Alderman Strader?
Yes.
All right, we'll take a 5-minute or so recess for John to break down the equipment.